The Tudors villainized Richard III, they also inserted their narrative into English history. You might have heard the expression that history is written by the winners. That is certainly true in the case of the Tudors. However, over the past 400 years, some things have come to light. And so I'd like to talk with you a little bit about remaking history, both as the Tudors did it and the process of reconfiguring history that has happened in just the last decade or so. Richard III was defeated at the Battle of Bosworth Field, and after that, Henry VII came to the throne. This portrait of Richard that has been in my slides is actually one that was commissioned by either Henry VII or Henry VIII as part of a set of royal portraits, and here it is from the Royal Collection through the British Library website. Um, on the side here, you've got a good depiction or description, I'm sorry, of the painting, and you can pause the video if you'd like to read that. This is not a true likeness of Richard III, is the important part of what I'm going to say here. This painting has got a severe facial expression. Richard has dark features, dark eyes, dark hair. He's also depicted with a hunch. If you can see on the left side of the portrait, that shoulder is raised and considerably above the right side of the portrait. And this is supposed to depict the unevenness of Richard's body that was attributed to him during his lifetime. Many people thought that maybe Richard may not have been disabled at all based on just the sheer amount of focus that Tudor sources put onto his disability. Shakespeare calls him hunchbacked, and the description of Richard as disabled or maimed in some way is in many texts from the time period. This is an article by Catherine Shop Williams that I've linked through D2L, and I'm not going to read it to you. I'm just showing you that Catherine Shop Williams has collected a lot of materials from the early modern period having to do with Richard's disability. One of those is Thomas More's History of King Richard III, and the obsession with Richard's body is very much part of the character assassination that More carries out. This portrait is also part of that disability emphasis that they're putting on Richard. The idea that the outside of Richard was maimed or disfigured, and therefore he was evil on the inside, is something that carries over and something that we saw in the Broadside Ballads that we spoke about the last time we met in class. This book, The Art of Physiognomy by Thomas Hill, says, the author says, the crookedness of the back imitates the wickedness of conditions, right? So that, again, the outside matches the inside. Here again are some other pieces about disability and Richard III. Here is Bacon's essay of deformity. This is another essay that I could have had us read to go along with Montaigne, but I decided not to. If you're interested in this, you're, of course, welcome to look at it. I'm going to go back to my slideshow for just a second and show you this. Sorry if skeletons make you squeamish. This is an image of a skeleton that was unearthed in 2012 while people were excavating a car park in England. So I'm going to go back out now to my web browser and show you that in 2012, a team of archaeologists unearthed Richard III. He was buried beneath this car park for over 500 years, and a car park is a parking lot. And so this is an image from the site. This is the skeleton once it had been removed, and you can see that there's a significant curve in the skeleton. And so what Richard III had was scoliosis. And therefore, based on the measurements that people have taken and the the way that they've been able to sort of 3D model what Richard would have looked like, um, Shakespeare was not very fair to Richard III. He wasn't as hunched as he is portrayed to be by Thomas More and Shakespeare and other Tudor writers. And indeed, this is a 3D model of his spine. And this study shows that he would not actually have been that physically different from those who were around him. He was a bit shorter than others. He would have been short because of the curvature, but nothing about his condition would have kept him from being active or even been of much notice to people who weren't around him very often. Um, the Richard III Society is another example of sort of like the stories we tell ourselves. The Richard III Society has, as their tagline says, since 1924, been sort of championing the cause of Richard III, saying, like the Tudors did him kind of dirty. Let's look at this. And what they say here has to do with the stories that we tell ourselves. The Richard III Society says that Tudor enemies took away not just his life, but his good name, his reputation, and they indeed did leave his grave in obscurity, marked only with a mean memorial. And his grave has now been turned into a museum. This is a BBC report.
Now, it's been a mystery for 500 years, and now scientists have confirmed that a skeleton found under a Leicester car park is that of King Richard III. Archaeologists said the extensive marks of battle on the bones, combined with DNA matched to his living descendants, put the identification beyond reasonable doubt.
So this was huge news when it came out. Um, all the Shakespeareans were really excited, and now we have a better idea of who the historical Richard III actually was and the extent of the Tudor meddling, I suppose is a good word for it, of the historical account and indeed of his physical presence after his death. Um, the location of the car park is now a historical site. There's a beautiful glass enclosure around the place where the bones were found, and his body has been reinterred in a place more fitting for a king of England. Um, as we go through Shakespeare's work on Richard III, we are going to talk about all of these historical contexts for the play, both what led up to the Wars of the Roses and Richard's reign in the first place, the Tudor conquering Richard III, and the stories that they told after, the way that monstrosity and morals tie together, and what that has to do with Richard as a disabled king, and the legacy of Richard III as it continues, both as text and in the person of the king.